Thanks, Jim. I've got it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. This is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. When we look at the world today and the future, Africa is where a lot of activity is going to be happening. Really, India and Africa are the hot spots for the next 10 years. And so if you're not there, you should be, and most of you are there. And so let's find ways to support each other and be more successful. We have some speakers today and some in the audience. Hopefully you'll be able to contribute as well, who have different perspectives of the market. Our goal today is to understand more about what the opportunities are, make some connections, and move each of our businesses forward in a successful way. We have at least a couple of the speakers here already in the room, and I'd like to just quickly introduce those two. Niyi Sanusi, who's the advisory board chair for Global Chamber Lagos. He's been a member of Global Chamber for several years. He's helped many members, not just in Nigeria, but all across Africa. He himself, being in the legal world, has a legal community all across Africa. I remember a few years ago, he helped us with a real estate transaction, I think in Burundi, through one of his connections. And so whatever you need, Niyi is there. I think also one of our global advisors in Djibouti was having someone impersonate him online, and Niyi was helpful in that. So in a variety of ways, he's not only helpful to be able to help members of Global Chamber, but he's also a trusted resource, and that's an important part to remember when you're doing business anywhere in the world, and in particular across Africa. AFCFTA is facilitating trade between countries in Africa and with the world, but you start somewhere, right? And so just like NAFTA and USMCA has created a super region in North America with Mexico, the US, and Canada, so too are we seeing the beginning of a super region through AFCFTA. Some of the key aspects of just getting stuff done are beginning to be implemented in that agreement, and I'm sure there'll be more coming forward. Those are facilitating leaders to do more business, and one of those leaders, Shalom Bako, is here today. He'll talk a little bit about his business, what he's seeing in Nigeria and in West Africa, and just in general, some of the opportunities in his area in food and beverage and superfoods. Niyi, would you like to start off and talk a little bit about some of the opportunities you're seeing? We'll go to Shalom, and then we'll open up the floor for questions and other speakers as they join.
Thanks, Doug. Hello, Shalom. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Now, as usual, Nigeria has a full basket, and depending on how you look at it, clearly one key area, thankfully Shalom is here, is agriculture. Agriculture is always at the key, shall I say, maybe a key area for Nigeria's economic projection. And I think for a variety of reasons that holds sway. Nigeria has very good arable land across all regions, all of the 6 geopolitical zones, as we like to call them here. And so we have agriculture always there, but I'm sure Shalom will speak more about that. I'm seeing a few headlines as I speak. One of them also has to do with energy. Nigeria has a continuing energy deficit. Electricity, fuel, gas, it's an area that's perpetually in scope, in focus for Nigeria. So that's a key area. Recently, we had the Dangote refinery come on stream. We were hoping that would have been resolved by now, but for a lot of reasons, including political, foreign exchange, and so forth, that is still ongoing. But at least we have a refinery, a functional one, and a huge refinery at the moment in Nigeria, and that gives a lot of comfort as far as the oil sector is concerned. With regard to the other aspects of power and energy, particularly power, there's a headline where I saw today, I think it came out today, and I'm hearing that the Minister of Power is looking at raising $10 billion with private sector participants. This is unlike what usually happens, where the government goes borrowing from multilateral institutions. And so in a lot of cases, there's not much accountability the way I see it. But hopefully with this, hopefully, as I said, that emphasis on hopefully, we'll be able to get some traction in the coming months and perhaps years. We also have prospects with the Nigerian auto industry. There's some traction to enable local production of vehicles on a larger scale. We have some local industries growing up. I'm sure those of us who are familiar with Nigeria's auto industry will know about Innocent. There are quite a number of them at the moment, but I think the government wants to even create more opportunities for this to happen. Nigeria has, by the records, well over 200 million population, and quite a number of us still don't have cars. So I think it would be a good opportunity to look at. Then also, I'm seeing another headline. It's a tech fair going on at the moment. So I think it's probably going on or has ended. It's being organized by a Nigerian bank. A lot of us, of course, are familiar with Zenith Bank. The fair is going on or has involved tech, mainly AI, all kinds of new applications, apps, are being showcased and so forth. So there's still a lot as far as fintech is concerned. Nigeria is still a very, very solid market to be looked at, because also you have a huge population that is still underserved, despite the few unicorns Nigeria has produced. Still have quite a lot of vacuum, a lot of open spaces for companies to come in and play. And as I said, AI is going to be a very, very big one in the coming years. So those are the things I can talk about. I'm sure others will speak on other areas as we go ahead. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank you, Niyi. Does anybody have any comments or questions about any of those, or any of you involved with energy and are interested in that market? Just feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead, or raise your hand along the way. And so think about that. And if you have some comments or thoughts, please jump in. Let's go next to Shalom Bako. And Shalom kind of is a world jet setter, other than being, a football player, a world-class football player. He's also a world-class global leader in the food industry. And he's today in Colombia, but he's normally based either in Nigeria or in the United States. We're very fortunate to have him often in Southern California, where he serves on the Global Chamber Los Angeles Advisory Board. We also have chapters in Nigeria, both in Abuja and in Lagos. We have a new global advisor, and I need to learn how to pronounce the name of the town and the state, but east of Lagos. And so we're looking to continue to expand our presence in Nigeria, almost hopefully as successfully as Shalom has built his business around the world. A lot of his business, I believe, in the U.S. of food, including hibiscus, comes in through both the ports of Atlanta and Los Angeles. And so he maintains businesses there. Shalom, what are you seeing in your world in the food industry? What other opportunities do you see in addition to that? Thank you for joining today.
Thanks, Doug. It's good to be here, as always, and definitely looking to be more active with the Global Chamber on the continent, especially in Nigeria. But yeah, I think I'm very fortunate to have been in this space for some time. I've been very bullish on Nigeria, especially, and the African continent for some time. And so I think some of the trends are the things I've spoken about in the past, which are that first, as we know, Afrobeats is, it's on the world stage. And that was the first thing that kind of broke the ice uh, for us as a continent. Then following that was or is, fashion. And right now, what is next up or what is current is the food. And so, like Nia pointed out, I think the opportunity on the continent that is very obvious is the food. Africa is definitely um, going to continue growing as the food basket and as a food basket. And so there's huge opportunities in food. There are hurdles because there's always barriers to entry with any industry, but definitely agriculture is one. And I know particularly in Nigeria, that's really, I think most people want to get into exports, but not only exports, they're looking at agricultural exports, right? The barriers to entry in energy are quite large um, compared to food, and so with that, it can be challenging. Same thing with the auto industry, so the lowest barrier to entry seems to be food, and we're very well known for food and agriculture. And historically, countries like Nigeria, prior to the discovery of oil, agriculture was the main thing. And so we're kind of going back to that. So I see the biggest opportunities in food. Um, However, I also say that with caution, being that the trend right now is everybody wants to get into it. Everybody wants to get into exporting, but there's not enough time being taken to do the research and take time to actually learn what it takes to actually do it successfully. So thankfully, I'm going to shout out someone. Jamel is here. She's our customs broker, and so she can attest to some of these things where there are quite a number of things you have to be aware of if you want to export to somewhere like the United States, right? The biggest problems I hear from Nigeria, particularly when it comes around agricultural exports or distribution around the world, is when you go to Nigerian Export Promotion Council, their number one problem is the rejection of Nigerian goods, particularly Nigerian agricultural items. And so it goes back to what I'm saying about it really has to do with the research and the research, just researching what it takes to package it properly, the quality that it needs to be in, because the way we consume it or the way we purchase it in Nigeria is often very different than the way an American consumer wants it or Canadian consumer wants it. And so there has to be a lot of research going around what foods, first of all. What I found or what I see a lot of is, there is focus on a lot of our traditional foods, which is growing in demand. A lot of our spices, a lot of our foods are growing in demand, but um, you don't always want to pick something that's perhaps too niche, right? Because then you're closing up your market, really your market opportunity. So there is tremendous opportunity in agriculture. That's for one. The second one that you mentioned was energy. Energy is also huge, but I think oftentimes when we look at energy for us, we are thinking about oil, right? Which traditionally, um, and as you mentioned, the Dangote refinery is online. That is the largest oil refinery in the world. However, as there are many Nigerians here, and you may see in the news as well for everybody else, Dangote is going through a lot of challenges. And when you look at someone at that scale, at that level, right, going through those type of challenges and having those barriers to entry, it kind of makes you think twice about if that's a lane you want to go down. Because if someone at that scale has to go through certain barriers and challenges, then it's not easy to get into. But there are other avenues of energy. Solar is an obvious one that most people talk about. And I will say that there is another young gentleman like myself. He's also from the northeast of Nigeria, where he runs a livestock farm, right? Primarily on solar. And he's been doing it for years. His name is Aminu Inyaku. And he runs this farm in Adamawa State in Nigeria. And it primarily runs on solar, right? And he's been doing it for a while. So there are huge opportunities for solar. I think in a lot of states now, you'll find there's solar lighting for the street lights. Even in Abuja, there's solar lighting for street lights. So solar is big. But one opportunity that is not taken advantage of, that Nigeria has a huge opportunity of, Ghana has a huge opportunity of, a lot of West African countries and East African countries as well. When you even look at Sudan and some of the other East African countries, and that is hydropower. We haven't really maximized the opportunities in hydro energy. And we have a lot of water. We have quite a number of dams, but the opportunity in hydro is not as tapped as it should be. So that's another opportunity I see. Other opportunities that have already kind of caught on are really in the tech space. And I think the tech space is an opportunity where it doesn't really matter what the industry is. It could be tech with agriculture, which we're involved with. So you talk about agricultural technology or agri-tech. It could be fintech. It could be whatever tech, edutech, educational technology. There's companies like, I forget their name, but there is an educational technology company based in Abuja. They're doing tremendous work and have been for some time. So anything at the intersection of tech, any industry at the intersection of tech, I think is a large, large opportunity that's not tapped into on the continent. And most of the time, we only focus on what's hot. So fintech is hot. There's unicorns. So everyone kind of gravitates there. But there's large amounts of opportunity in technology intersecting with any industry. So that would be really another large, what I'll call, blue ocean strategy, if you will, if you're familiar with that, that you can look into. Any industry at the intersection of technology is a huge opportunity on the African continent. So I think I'll leave it at those as far as agriculture, energy, and technology. And yeah, I'm open to any questions. You can put it in the chat or feel free to just unmute and ask me.
Thank you, Shalom. While we're waiting for any questions, Jermil, you're working with Shalom. Do you have any additional observations you'd like to make given the work that you do bringing products into the U.S.?
Mainly it's just educating yourself before you ship out. That's where I think most of the issues happen. So just understanding the importer security filing responsibilities, filing before you place it on the vessel, so you don't get that $5,000 penalty. They do give out penalties. I've been hearing more about it. So you don't want to give away your money for free when you can just save it and get more products. So you want to make sure you do that. And reach out beforehand. I can help people with consultations, help you understand the regulations. I'm actually helping connect people with people that hopefully can get them some distributors with some products from Africa because I've been networking a lot. So I'm trying to use my connections to help other people bring their products here. So just keep networking. That's the best thing to do if you're trying to grow your business.
That sounds good. And Jacob, I see you in the call. You had sent me an earlier email about the Rockaways in Queens, New York. And it turns out that Jermil lives, I think, close to the border of Queens and Long Island,
Yeah,
kind of close to where my...
I
What's
just
that?
met him because we spoke
Oh,
before and he just told me he's in New York. I was like, oh, you're like 30 minutes from me. So
yeah,
we'll probably meet up soon.
really close. I think probably off the Belt Parkway somewhere
Mhm.
on that side on the way to the Throgs Neck Bridge. So thank you, and hopefully you guys connect up. The concept of technology, I think, is in addition to the products coming in and out, and Jermil does a great job with that. The technology side to me is fascinating, because I think what we're seeing in Africa is what we saw in Mexico 15, 20 years ago, where Mexico began an outsourcing industry, the nearshoring industry. I see Sayali from Aprilage. She's a prospective member, and they're, I think, hopefully joining, based out of Austin, but also based out of India. And so when we think about the technology outsourcing industry, I think generally we think of India, but over the last 20 years, Mexico has come forward, and so many other regions have become players in the technology field, and provided different levels of service, different cost points. And what's happening in Africa now is the ability to do I don't think it's called this, but a nearshoring model for Europe. And it's certainly happening. Our global Chamber Accra Advisory Board Chair, Komi Klu, has been involved with technology companies, not just in Ghana, but in other countries, where technologists are being trained. Technologists are then being used for providing those IT services into other countries within Africa and then beyond. And so that's certainly something that will continue. Shalom, when you were talking about technology, are there particular areas that you're excited by, or that you're maybe even involved with investing in for Nigeria? What are some of the things that we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think for us, one that's obvious is agricultural technology. We've been tapped into quite a bit of traceability since the beginning of our conception. We've been doing quite a bit with, even just from a very foundational perspective. In 2019, we started doing things with the traditional sacks that we ship on the containers, with some level of traceability on each sack. And that's kind of evolved over time. So that's one bit of it. There's other, several aspects of agricultural technology as well that have to do either with the production or the storage and warehousing of it. And I think one avenue that we're heavily invested right now is in cold storage technology, particularly on the continent. So, we are involved in other countries like Ghana and Senegal, but we do a lot, obviously, in Nigeria, which is where we started. And if you're familiar with the River Niger, for those who are here, there's in the past, long before even our independence, those riverways, those waterways were used for trade, right? They were used to get goods from the northern part, or let's call it the inlands of the West African continent, all the way to the ports of, Accra or Port Harcourt or Lagos. And over time, there's been a lot of shipwrecks. And after independence and after oil, those things were abandoned. But there is a shift, and we've been quite involved over the last few years around, clearing those waterways and developing cold storage ports at several points in those waterways, both in the east, the west, and the south. And so there's some cold storage technology that we're implementing. You have things like EDI that are also being implemented, so you can trace and track things from those cold storage facilities on the continent, all the way till they get to our cold storage facilities in Atlanta or in LA. So that's, I guess, some snippet of some of the things we're currently working on.
Great perspectives. Asahi, I'm not sure if you're active and can speak right now, but we met you and you became involved with us back, I think, in your Abuja days, and now I think you're in Casablanca, right? Have you moved to Morocco? But one of the, I think, the more pressing ideas that and why you add so much value is your ability to be involved in so many different new technology opportunities within the region. Do you have some perspectives you'd like to share?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here again. Yes. So recently I've been talking about how we're seeing there's a repeat of fintech in Africa. That opportunity to leapfrog legacy technologies, incorporate integrating trends such as a rapid adoption of mobile phones to really accelerate the adoption of fintech solutions. We're seeing that in biotech today, which is really exciting for the continent, really exciting for me personally, because I have a bit of a background in commercializing life science inventions for the government of Kansas. And the other part of this that's causing the emergence, obviously, is access to increasingly more affordable technologies in genetic research and analysis. But it's also because the African genome is the richest genome around the world. So what that means in simple terms, humanity can, with the African genome, develop drugs, medicinal drugs that you go and get from your local CVS or pharmacy, that are more effective for more diseases to more people. So it only means great things. And I am exceptionally excited to see this trend take off. It's been a thing in South Africa for many, many years. South Africa is eons ahead of the rest of the continent. I'm starting to see a number of these companies go out and address or attempt to tackle different problems in multiple countries now. Here in Morocco, a few in Nigeria, which I'm very excited about because of Nigeria has the population. And if more and more companies, more and more science entrepreneurs jump on this bandwagon, then it becomes a thing. Back in 2013, when you mentioned, I remember, being in the Bay Area then, you'd mentioned fintech and Africa in the same sentence, and people would be like, "What?" Today's probably the same thing. When you mention biotech in Africa, people are like, "What?" But give it time, give it the one or two success stories. Thanks to Paystack and Flutterwave and a few other companies today, fintech is not news anymore. Fintech in Africa is not news, right? In fact, in my opinion, it was saturated back in 2020. So if people are still hearing about fintech in Africa in 2024, well, better late than never. What I'm seeing is that's repeating itself with biotech all over again. So it's an exciting time to see this leapfrog opportunity, or I see another leapfrog opportunity, and to be a part of it. So I encourage anyone who is interested to learn more to please reach out to me, reach out to other people on the African continent who work in tech, learn what the opportunities are and see how you can be a part of it. Especially if you missed out on the fintech revolution. Don't miss out on this one. I don't know when the next one will be.
That's one of the cool things about being involved globally is you get to see the world at a bigger picture and the waves of technology changing in different places. And if you miss the first wave in a particular region, you can catch it in another wave. It's not always the same, right? The telecommunications technology skipped a lot of technology in Africa and went right to mobile and a lot of other things got skipped over, and you're seeing that in other areas as well. So great perspectives. Just as just a grounding here, we're about halfway through our conversation. We've got about 20-25 minutes left. We'll finish up at the hour. You're listening to our monthly Global Chamber Africa, Pan-Africa conversation. We have two more, at least two this week on Africa, one in about an hour and a half that's more focused in on e-commerce and some of the opportunities there. I'm not sure if anybody in this room is involved with that. If you are, would love to hear from you at the end. If not, Cesar can summarize. And then another event we have coming up from Tanzania later this week on Friday, Niyi is involved with that, and would love to hear, Niyi, from you as well, and perspectives you have about West Africa and also the interaction with Tanzania and any other topics around these opportunities that you see across the region. Are you available to speak right now?
Yes, Doug. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bako, and all the speakers, Niyi. What I wanted to talk about, I've heard Bako talking about research and how some of the products from Africa, it's not only in Nigeria, but it's from Africa that are rejected and sent back. And he talked about research. Yes, we really need to do more research, but also we need to improve in standardization and quality and standardization and certifications, which is very expensive. And also most of the people have not been able to reach the standards that they're supposed to do because of certain things like packaging and also processing areas for value addition for agriculture, the manufacturing industry. Not everyone has been able to reach the standards that are supposed to be. But also we need more research on soil testing and other the likes. I know we have Adesumbar at the floor, and I know she's going to talk about agriculture in the areas of herbs and spices, how I would leave that to her as the president, and I would really like to hear her perspectives. But also on Friday, we are going to have a trade expert from Tanzania who is also a Global Chamber advisor from Dar es Salaam, Godfrey Mondi, and he's going to talk about all the opportunities that are available in Tanzania and how you can partner and how you can work with how you can partner with local entrepreneurs or local business people to improve and invest in Tanzania. So we are going to talk about so many things, and some of the things have been spoken here today. So I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Niyi. We look forward to the conversation. The goal of Global Chamber is to connect leaders to opportunities, no matter what your main interest is for your business, no matter where you want to do it. When you're a member anywhere and everywhere, so you can jump in to any place. I was just looking at some of the events that are coming up. You can jump in to Mumbai and Chicago and Los Angeles and Kyiv and Denver, Osaka, Vietnam, Dubai, Los Angeles, Geneva, Toronto, Singapore. Those are some of the meetings that we have coming up in the next couple months. And so feel free to, as we continue to accelerate our activities as we grow around the world, please jump in. I think did I say Dallas? I think I did. Thinking of Dallas, Jacob, you're here, and you've been a world traveler since we've known you for these years. You've spent a decent amount of time in Dallas. I understand now that you've got a base in New York as well. You're mentioning about the connection with the Cameroon. Would you like to share anything or spotlight any ideas or thoughts?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's great to be on here with everybody. And really learn about, some of the new advancements that are happening. And, I'm always very excited about anything, happening and on the continent, and, things that I'm very excited about, are things like that entrepreneur is working on, and it's a remittance platform that sort of goes beyond, what other remittance platforms are offering, including like, instead of, I think a major issue with a lot of, of remittance platforms, the older ones, is the percentages that were taken out. And so what he's done is designed a platform so that a percentage goes towards a fund that helps to, support SMEs and across the continent. So having something that can, help to create more circularity and amplify those remittances is something, I think is very impressive. And he's just a very impressive guy. And speaking of Dallas, yeah, I'm from Dallas, Fort Worth, and it's an ever-growing area. I mean, I think the city of Fort Worth, I heard from the one of the leaders in the area, that's like, I think 53 or 54 people are moving in each day. So DFW is ever growing, and it might be DFFW soon, with Frisco ever expanding. And so, yeah, if anyone ever wants to talk about opportunities in DFW, would be happy to coordinate and link you up with anyone. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Jacob. I encourage any of you either to raise your hand or to unmute yourself, and I'll look to identify anyone who has a comment or would like to add to the conversation. Moses, I'm not sure if you're available to speak, but Moses is a longtime member of Global Chamber and been an expert in the aerospace and autonomous vehicle, and particularly, I know, Moses, you were instrumental in creating connections within the drone industry through both your work and also your hobbies. So congratulations on all that. You've had some recent changes. Let us know more about what your view of the opportunities are, and anything else you'd like to share.
Sure. Thank you very much, Doug, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the rest of the audience. Yeah, my name is Moses Koyabe, located out in Michigan, in the U.S. However, very strong connections originating from Kenya, East Africa, but also from Europe as well, where I've spent quite a long period of time. My interests, of course, in Africa, and I'll go back to what Shalom was talking about, essentially, is trying to really build up the agricultural sector. And my approach, of course, is from the top, and that's no pun intended. Looking at agriculture in Africa, where we have, unlike the US, where we have very large operations and ranches and farms, Africa is more of smaller settlement, split up type of operations. That makes it a little bit of a challenge to mechanize strongly. And therefore, bringing in a technology such as a drone technology is very useful in helping improve the output, but also, we've been talking about quality and probably consistency in the product, having a uniform production of crops. So I've been working with some teams out in Kenya, where we're trying to introduce drone technology for mapping and for surveilling, but also for the operations, in order to, I would say, mechanize from an aerial perspective agricultural production. That also is translating into helping build up the aerospace, given the open skies approach that is being promoted in Africa. that also help convey products from one country to the other and build up that nation or inter-country trade that's also vital in building up the agricultural sector in Africa. So that, in short, is where I am, bringing in drone technology into the African agricultural segment.
You are a renaissance man between aerospace and autonomous technologies and agriculture. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for your time.
Our pleasure. We've got about 12 minutes or so left. And before we close, I definitely want to have all the speakers give some final comments. There's a couple more people that I'd ideally love to hear from. Brian McKay, you're in the room, and you have been a technology leader for many years, including the BPO industry. I'm wondering, I hadn't really considered and connected you to Africa yet. What's your perspective? Are you involved? Are you observing, and what other observations do you have, young man?
Well, I'm definitely observing. So I have personally been in the offshore tech space for 24 years, and most of my focus has been in India and Latin America, and now in Asia. And but my conversations with my clients at the sea level is that Africa is sort of the last untapped opportunity for technology development, just in terms of outsourcing, AI. It could be everything from just pure software development to research. So that is what I and some of my clients are very interested in. And we don't want to jump on board 10 years late. We've seen what's happened in India. A lot of us are old enough to have seen the evolution there, and what that's done to India economically over the last 25 years. And so we're all trying to figure out, and my clients are asking me how to at least start exploring that. So that's why I'm here today.
Okay. One of the people we should connect you with, if you haven't already, is Komi Klu, global. He's his own company, but he's back and forth between Accra and Wilmington, Delaware, and he's set up and is familiar with not just technology but business service outsourcing. And so if that would be of interest, we're happy to make that connection. He's not here in the room today.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, very good. In terms of anybody else that would like to speak, anybody having any additional comments before we do a wrap up? Yes, please, Osai.
All right. Yeah. So being in Morocco, I noticed that majority of the wealth generation here comes from agriculture and construction / real estate. Their agricultural market here is very well developed. It's impressively so. My friends who are in Nigeria, being grocery shopping in Nigeria, would agree with me that in the stores there's a lot of foreign brands on the shelves in Nigeria. It's the reverse in Morocco. There's one or two brands that I recognize, and a bunch of them, or a few of them from Europe as well, but a lot of them from Morocco, which says to me that the production capacity is fairly mature here. And that's a good thing. I don't know if they do a bunch of exporting, which would be a shame, just because the products are just so well done. But I think there's some opportunity there as well. Maybe they're just not aware that, it's a thing, or that it could, how big it could be. But I'm sure there are folks on this call who would love to educate the country about that. And of course, construction. With the country hosting the FIFA World Cup in 2030, there's a lot of construction going on, obviously from the government side as well as private. So in terms of hospitality, restaurants and hotels, to accommodate all the incoming people that are expected to show up. The government will be looking to, I understand, introduce social welfare that gives Moroccans access to free healthcare. So that means to me, there's tremendous opportunity in the healthcare space and providing healthcare services to Morocco in the coming years. So yeah, those are a few other things I just wanted, because I didn't talk about Morocco earlier, and I just wanted to share my findings.
Your comments made me think of several different things, including some of our members involved in the healthcare space, and the opportunity in Morocco. I hadn't appreciated your comments till now about Morocco's opportunity. So the other is in the construction industry. One of our members working on housing in Cote d'Ivoire, and as we all recognize, the infrastructure opportunity with infrastructure, including transportation, but also housing, it's just so significant all across. So thank you for sharing on that. We also talked briefly about India, and Prime Minister Modi visited, and maybe he's still there in Nigeria right now, and the connectivity, I think, is interesting in some of the key segments we've talked about. Technology, certainly with his home state is Gujarat, and the connectivity both with the strong agriculture sector there and the strong technology and entrepreneurialism capabilities of Gujarat state. India, of course, overall, and Prime Minister Modi's first visit by a Prime Minister of India to Nigeria for 17 years, talking about synergies there. So I see, maybe this is the last comment we'll take before we do wrap-ups, but Adesunbo, do you have a comment or a question, please? Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adesunbo Adeniro. I'm the president of African Women in Herbs and Spices. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, though, for this opportunity to talk. Over the years, I've been noticing some opportunities that I think people are not really tapping into that much, especially from outside, people that are outside of the country. Like we have in herbs and spices, that's industry, we have so much like shea butter, the shea nuts, the sesame seed, we have hibiscus leaf, we have dried ginger, and we have cashew nuts. Those are some of the things that people really need to tap into. We have a whole lot of them here. And the other ones that people are not really looking at, and just few people are actually focusing on, is we have a seed called Uteria umbellata. The local name is actually aberry seed. So it's used for a lot of different medicinal purposes. It's good for diabetes, it's good for hypertension, but people are not really looking into it. We have so little people that actually patronize it. Most people that actually knows about it are really individuals, but industries are not really patronizing it. I think they don't really know much the effect of this, and it's a very, very powerful seed. Another one is negro pepper. Negro pepper, it can be used in culinary, it can also be used in cosmetics. And it's a very powerful seed as well, and people are not really tapping into it. So I think those two majorly, and those ones that I mentioned, are some of the opportunities that I think people should tap into. Thank you.
Where are you based, and where do you export?
I'm based in Nigeria, Ibadan, Oyo State.
I see. And do you export from Nigeria?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. Well, look forward to learning more. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Shalom. Shalom. Oh, there you are. And Niyi, thank you for coming back. I wanted to start wrapping up And Niyi, I just mentioned, I don't know if you were here or not, but Prime Minister Modi's visit. Did you have any perspectives on that you wanted to share? Had you studied that or been part of that at all?
Well, not directly, but I think it's stems from the visit by the Nigerian president, also of India, earlier this year. I think there was a meeting sometime anyway earlier this year. And I remember that he did or was meant to bring in a package of investments, so forth. I think so. We're expecting a lot from that, and with the enthusiastic welcome that the government of Nigeria gave Prime Minister Modi, as well as the rousing reception by the Indian community here, I think that quite a bit is still expected. We are expecting to see them in the final details and the more specifics, but I think these things, this is how sometimes they work at the higher level and then seeps down. And also bear in mind that Nigeria and India are part of the G20 and they're meeting about now in Brazil. So I think from there you would expect to see quite a bit. But overall, India, the Indian economy, the Indian population, the Indian and the community in Nigeria is quite vibrant. They have had a lot of impact in the agriculture sector, certainly at the refinery that Dangote has built, and elsewhere across the Nigerian spectrum, the Nigerian economic spectrum. So I expect that in the next few years, next few months, we should see quite a lot of even deeper and more intense activity India, Nigeria wise.
You started with the conversation about the oil refinery. The world's largest oil refinery actually is in Gujarat. The refinery in Nigeria is the largest single train refinery. So that's one of the connections between India and Nigeria is two of the largest refineries, maybe the two largest refineries in the world. And I'm sure that was on the agenda between the leaders. Shalom, we only have a couple minutes. Are there any additional comments that you wanted to make in wrapping up?
Yeah, perhaps I'll just start with the visit by the Indian president and then talk a bit about research. So, I mean, the Indian community has been very strong and successful in Nigeria. When you look at, in the past, you look at Olam. Olam is still today one of the largest commodities traders in the world. Then you also have, currently, I think part of the visit also has to do with the new port. We have another port in Lagos that just came on board right next to the Dangote refinery. They're literally right next to each other, and the port is across the street. And that's run by Tolaram and has, a large Indian influence, if you will, or a lot of Indian engineers. You also look at Dangote. Dangote has, at the very executive level, quite a strong Indian presence as well. So I think traditionally they've done very well in the country, and so that could be part of that. And I think that's going to continue to grow. But last words, earlier I think it was Jacob or someone asked about research, and I believe someone else. And really, so there's a couple of things. I think in terms of research, how you do research depending on the industry is, I always start with the basic. I mean, we have internet, we have AI. There's quite a lot of research that you can do with what's available on the internet. For us, part of what we do is market research, depending on the industry, depending on what we can find. We do provide market research services to companies, business development. We provide a lot of services for exporters as well from Nigeria. And going to what Adesumbo stated earlier, I think that part of that research is also identifying what products will actually succeed. Some of the products are oversaturated, in my opinion. And I think that part of the research we do need to do that other people are doing that we're not doing. When you look at what the Chinese are doing in countries like Ghana and Nigeria and even Senegal, they research, things that are very much ignored and untapped. When you look at something like hibiscus, up until, 5 years ago, when people like myself are doing a lot more marketing, on these products, you didn't really have a lot of attention paid to some of these things. And we have a plethora of them. We can go through a list of over 100 different herbs, spices, fruits, and a bunch of stuff that we are not tapping into, whether it's bitter leaf or it's, Gorontula. So there's quite a lot that everybody knows the African continent has. I think we need to do research beyond what is just popular. And I just think that a lot of things that are being exported today are oversaturated when it comes to the agriculture industry. So last words I'll just say is, yes, do a lot of research. You can also reach out to me. I put my information in the chat and we'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalom. Shalom Bako, also Niyi Sanusi, based in Lagos. Shalom, based in Nigeria, in the US, and the world, today in Colombia. Thank you, Jermil, for the work that you're doing, bringing products to the US and getting products around the world. Thank you, Jacob, for joining today and sharing. Elizabeth Glenn is in the call, and she is an export expert. She's based in Los Angeles. And so if you're doing anything in Los Angeles, please definitely do connect with Elizabeth. She's on the Global Chamber Los Angeles Advisory Board, as Shalom is. And Moses, thank you. It's great to see you. And it's been a while. Brian as well. Thanks for joining, and we'll get you connected to Comey. Nima, thank you. And we look forward to the conversation on Friday. Nima is a leader on two really key areas. One is getting young people to be better leaders. Another is for women to be more successful. Building the export mentality is so important. So Nima, thank you for doing that, and thank you for being part of Global Chamber. We have in 1 hour a different conversation that talks about Africa and e-commerce. And so please join. Check out the website and you'll find it. And we've got a bunch of other events this week as well. Thanks everybody for joining. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.